Okay, so welcome back, and today we're going to start talking about fractions and working with fractions. So the idea of fractions is used widely. It's used in carpentry, it's used in all kinds of measurements, in cooking. So we're bombarded by fractions everywhere, okay? And so it's very important to understand fractions, and so many people struggle with it. So in this video, I just want to give an introduction to fractions and understanding of fractions, what we mean, and then we're going to go on doing examples and how we work with fractions. So a fraction is really just like a proportion, a portion of something, a part of something. So if I say a fraction of a penny, then I'm talking about some portion of a penny, right? Or if a fraction of a cake, right? I'm talking about a portion of a cake, or a fraction of a pie, or a fraction of a pizza, or a fraction of a mile, or a fraction of a trip, right? We understand that intuitively what we're talking about is some part of the whole thing, the whole trip, the whole pie, the whole cake, whatever it is that you're talking about. So a fraction is a representation of a part of a whole something, okay? So now the other underlying idea of a fraction is that we're cutting something up into equal pieces, right? So if I say a third of a cake, right, then I know that I'm dealing with it divided into 3 equal pieces. Or if I'm talking about a fourth of a cake, then intuitively I understand, and people understand, that I'm talking about dividing the pie or the cake into 4 equal pieces. Or if I talk about a fifth of a mile, right? So intuitively I'm taking that mile and I'm dividing it into 5 equal parts, and I'm taking one of those, right? 1/5, right? So there's that also that's part of a fraction, okay? And so the idea is I'm taking a whole, so let's say I'm taking, in numbers, I'm taking the unit 1, right? And I'm dividing this 1 up into equal parts, right? So whether it's thirds or fourths or tenths, right? So if I want to equally divide this, right, let's say those are equal pieces, then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equal pieces, right? So if I have 8 equal pieces, and I want to take 3 of these pieces, then what I'm doing is I'm taking 3/8 of the whole thing, right? So this part here represents 3/8, right? So the 1/8 piece, okay, so this is what we call the denominator, right? This tells us, we talk about denominations, right? Denominations are religious organizations, right? Denominations. Are you Baptist? Are you Protestant? Or Lutheran? Or are you Mormon? Or are you Catholic? Or are you evangelical? So all these different denominations, right? So this denominator tells us what kind of fraction we're dealing with. This tells us how we're dividing up the whole piece. Okay? So this tells us that we're dealing with 8ths. So this fraction represents 8ths. And then the top number, which we call the numerator, tells us how many of those 8ths we're taking. So if we're saying 3/8 of this 1 unit, then we're dividing this up into 8 equal pieces. That's where the 8ths comes in. And then we're going to take 3 of those. So 3/8 represents 3 out of the whole. 3/8. Now, I could also divide this into other divisions, right? So if something like that. So now how many equal pieces do I have? 4. right? So if I take one of these, then this represents 1/4 of the whole. Okay, and so the denominator is 4. That tells us what kind of fraction we're dealing with. And the top number is telling us how many of those fourths we're taking. How many of those equal pieces are we going to take? Okay, and that's the understanding of fractions. Have a great day.